My name is Joanne Spell, and my birthday is March 25th, 1918. I was born in La Crosse, Wisconsin. I was the youngest of 4 children. We were all just 1 year apart. Translated, Joanne is Ioana. However, I was called by my pet name while I was growing up. I was called Janula, which means little Joanne. Being children of Greek immigrant parents, perhaps it was quite a bit different from some of the children that I grew up with. We didn't have some of the freedoms that other children had. For instance, when I became of dating age, I didn't have the freedom to accept dates from young men. They would want to know about his background. I did date when I was, maybe about 20 years old. To begin with, I was able to go out in groups with young people, boys and girls, but to pair off and go off on my own with a young fellow, not until I was about 20 years old. And then it was with Peter, because my parents knew his family. They pretty much accepted him. He was Greek. I'm proud of my Greek background. I'm very happy to call myself Greek, of Greek heritage, absolutely. Greeks are Orthodox Christians. I believe 95% of the Greeks in Greece are Orthodox Christians. I am also. Oh, the food is excellent. Mediterranean food now is really touted as being the healthiest. And what is the secret of the Mediterranean diet? Olive oil, lots of fruits, lots of vegetables. Let me tell you that you are a beautiful girl. Lara ise poliorea. Poliorea koritsi. Se agapo para polio. And I love you very much. I'm a people person, and I like to socialize an awful lot. I wasn't a great student. I was an average student, but I enjoyed going to school, I think, for the most part. Well, to tell you the truth, we were all in the same boat. Everybody was poor, and we never thought of ourselves as being poor. I really can't say that we suffered an awful lot. Our particular family, we had a nice home. We had plenty to eat, if I recall. Once in a while, maybe we thought that we should be having something other than maybe a jelly sandwich for lunch. But no, I really feel that we made out all right. I really never felt poor. We had nice clothes. I think both my sister and I wore nice clothing. We weren't really what you call poor. We had a warm house, food on the table. So I really don't feel that we were deprived. We weren't spoiled, for one thing, which is a good thing. We walked to school. We didn't drive to school as so many of them do today. We didn't expect an awful lot, and maybe that's good, because that would have exerted a lot of pressure on our parents, and that would have been hard on them. Oh, there's no comparison at all. There was 25% unemployment during the Great Depression, and the recession, I don't think they came anywhere near it. No, no comparison. It was during the war, and this was a very common thing, just to go to either a church or to the civil authorities and get married, because war brings on a lot of changes, and you couldn't really schedule anything and make sure that it was going to happen if you were married to a serviceman at the time, because his leave could be canceled just in a matter of a day or two. We met here in Minneapolis. I should say I really didn't meet him. I laid eyes on him Good Friday evening at church. Well, first of all, let me give you a little background on the two churches that existed in Minneapolis at the time. St. George Greek Orthodox Church and St. Mary's Greek Orthodox Church. The attendance, the congregations were based, believe it or not, on Greek politics. The people who supported the monarchy in Greece went to St. George Church. The people, the liberals, you might say, who supported the prime minister, Venizelos was his name, went to St. Mary's Church. My parents were liberals. They attended St. Mary's Greek Orthodox Church. Peter's parents were monarchists. They supported the king. After a number of years, the people in both churches, and this is what I have heard, I don't know how true this is, I have heard that the women in both the congregations finally said, enough of this is crazy, let's put Greek politics aside, we are Americans now, let's merge. So the two churches merged and we became one church. They took the name St. Mary's. Peter was singing in the St. George choir. I was singing in the St. Mary's choir. And it was that night during the service that I saw him. I laid eyes on him. I was standing in the front row. My sister was standing next to me. Peter was in the back row. He was a tenor. Every time I turned around, I noticed this fella was staring at me. And I nudged my sister and I said, who is that fella that's standing in the back row on the very end? And she said, I don't think he's Greek, and I think he's from St. Paul. Wrong, wrong, wrong. She was wrong. Well, I accepted that. I thought maybe she knew something I didn't. And then she also added, isn't he cute? And I said, yes, he is. That night, I left the church. I didn't know his name. I didn't know anything about him. About a week later, I was invited to my cousin's home. He invited me to dinner at his parents' home. After dinner, he said to me, let's go in the living room, and he played the piano. He introduced me to a beautiful song. It was called Drigo Serenade. And while he was playing the piano, I was singing, and I kept telling him, oh, play that over again, it's so beautiful. And I was singing, and then all of a sudden, out of the clear blue, he stopped playing and he said, you know what? I've got a friend who's got a crush on you. And I said, who is your friend? And he said, his name is Peter Spiliopoulos. When I take you home tonight, shall we stop and pick him up, and I'll introduce you to him? And I said, okay. So that's what we did. We stopped on the way to my place and picked him up. First of all, I will say that Dino went to the phone and called him up and told him, my cousin is here. Can we pick you up? I'm going to be taking her home. And he said, yes. That's how I got to really meet him, and the rest is history. After I met Peter, about a week after that, he called me up one night, Saturday night. He asked me, are you going to be in church tomorrow? And I said, yes. And he said, okay, I'll see you. The next day after church, everything was over and done with. We met outside of the church. Peter handed me something, and I thought, I wonder what this is. It was something that resembled a diploma. When I got home, I opened it up, and it was the sheet music to Drigo Serenade. Dino had told him how much I loved that song, and Peter went and brought it to me. Isn't that romantic? I received, through the mail, I received an engagement ring. And then we set a date in June to be married. I was to go out to the East Coast, and he was in Annapolis at the in the postgraduate school. 2 children. Sandy is our first child, and Mary, our second child. I have 3 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. My faith teaches me that there is a resurrection, and I'm so grateful to believe that someday I will be in the great beyond. I think through life we have minor regrets. As to any major ones, I don't think so. Not really. I've had a good life. I'm very grateful. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm just all over grateful. I feel blessings, many of them. I really don't like what I see. I think there's so much crime. That disturbs me an awful lot when I pick up the paper and I see people being murdered every day. Life is cheap nowadays, and it shouldn't be. Life is precious. Things that were important to us back then are no longer, they're on the back burner. Morals, everything. I don't know, there isn't that caring, it seems to me, for our fellow man that we had. Maybe I'm mistaken on this. I hope I am. But it seems to me that we cared more for one another than people care about today. Nowadays, it's too much. I made it, to heck with you, and I don't like that. We should think about all of us as brothers and sisters. We should care enough about each other to say, you count too. You know, you're important too. You're a child of God. I liked Obama. I think that perhaps he has made some mistakes, but then there isn't a president in our history that hasn't made mistakes. But for the most part, I've admired him. I think he's done very well when you consider that he's had so little cooperation, particularly with the opposition. I would love to compare it with what my sister had said. It should be interesting.